Welcome to another episode of What the Truck. I am your host, Malcolm Harris, remotely. Normally, this is not the background. There is some green back there, but it's not the normal green you used to see in here virtual. Out of Florida today, enjoying Thanksgiving. Happy early Thanksgiving to everybody tomorrow. I'm really thankful for everybody, specifically the team, and just everybody listening in today. So I appreciate it. Today is again Wednesday, November 26th, and we have a jam-packed show, a double header today. The first, I'm going to break some news. Of course, Noi Mahoney, he is a great insider and reporter here for FreightWaves. He is going to be talking to us all about some articles that he's brought for us. All right. There's one that I saw yesterday that I really want to get into. Then there's another one that I think you guys are absolutely going to love as well. So I really enjoy Noi's writing. I think he's one of the best writers that we have here at FreightWaves, and I'm excited for him to speak with you all. And what would this show be without going on the road? All right. And going on the road, we have to talk about the ultimate road warrior, Mr. Stacy Batiste. All right, y'all, if you guys don't remember, I had Pilot on the show, the first few shows, and we were talking about the Road Warrior contest. Well, we're bringing the winner to you guys to listen into his story. He's from Louisiana. He's a Marine through and through, but most importantly, he's a truck driver, and he's going to deliver not only those loads, but for me and you today. So we got Noi, we got Stacy, a great doubleheader. This is going to be an awesome show. But what would this show be without our sponsors at PCS? Again, today's show is brought to you by PCS. In this freight market, margins are everything. PCS TMS and Cortex AI help carriers capture the right loads, cut wasted miles, and find profit points on every run, because profit, not volume, is the new payload. See how at PCSsoft.com. We have a few articles to go through before I get to Noi. Let's talk about this rail merger really fast. All right, so BNSF is actually going to be potentially, of course, there's this merger happening. I saw this from Stuart, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. There's a lot of different things that they're saying in terms of, all right, like, hey, is this going to be something that we are looking at as a good thing? All right, you guys see this statement right now. We could see customers, especially on the carload side, lose competitive options as a result of the merger today. Tom Williams, the EVP, of course, CMO at BNSF. There is a lot to unpack here. Stuart did a great job in this article. Essentially, what they're saying is that there will be options that would be taken, and this could potentially be not good for everybody. So there's going to be negotiations ongoing, and I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of what's happening here. And of course, when you look at this thing, right? I mean, the details when it comes to this, how there's a response, right, ultimately is going to depend on the details within this actual filing, right? So it's premature, obviously, to speculate on what's going to happen, but I do think that there is going to be some, I'd say, unleft and unturned stones when it comes to this story. So definitely be on the lookout for this story from Stuart. I want you guys to check that out at FreightWaves.com as well. Now, looking at this other story, guys, I thought this was awesome too. All right, so there is a merger happening. This is from Todd that I saw. I wanted to bring to your attention from the Performance Food Group as well as U.S. Foods. There was going to happen, but now they've ended those merger talks. All right, so to put this in perspective, both companies operate more than 6,000 tractors. All right, this would have created one of the biggest food distros in the entire space. All right, 100 billion in annual net sales between the two. All right, so basically what's happened here is the board of directors, in unanimous, they believe that the clearest, best path to long-term value for stockholders is just executing the standalone strategic plan, leveraging diverse business segments to drive consistent revenue and profit growth. All right, so this is from George Holm, the CEO and PFG chairman as well. So this looks like this is not going to happen, although U.S. Foods has reiterated that its fiscal 2025 outlook and long-range plan, it calls for some adjusted sales when it comes to growth And also, they've announced plans to repurchase an agreement in addition to a $250 million accelerated share repurchase plan. So looks like this is not going to happen, although there is definitely, to the point that we've all tried to, make and come across is that there are talks happening and, they're going to be big moves, but I'd say far less than what we're expected as we head into 2026. So those are the big two articles that I'd like to get into. And now I would like to get this guy on the phone. I'd say again, one of the best writers. I love reading his stuff. He is, a lot of people don't know this, but I actually share quite a few things socially for FreightWaves on behalf of our writers. And every time I see Noi, he is the nicest guy. Anytime I was like, "Hey, I have a question about this," or something is, I need clarification, or just being responsive. So I want to bring in now again our cross-border expert, our fraud and theft expert, and just a great all-around guy. Noi Mahoney. Noi, how are you, man?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Are you excited for Thanksgiving? Any plans?
Um, I'm always excited for turkey and pie and everything. So yeah, I'm excited for the food and being around family and some football.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, before we get into it, favorite pie, and then also football team of choice.
Favorite pie is a tough one. I'm gonna go with cherry pie. And
Okay.
what was the other question?
Football team. Who's your team?
Oh, I got to go with my Texas Longhorns. I'm a UT Austin graduate, so I love my
Okay.
Longhorns.
All right, cool, man. Hey, hook 'em, man. I love it. I went to the other UT, the UT that was there first. Tennis. No, I'm kidding, man. It's awesome. That's awesome, Doy. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. So I saw this headline and instantly I was like, gotta have you on the show. Auto parts, berries, and lettuce used to smuggle millions in drugs. All right, walk us through this because how do all these things even happen to smuggle drugs and what do you investigators know so far?
Well, these were different cases. I did a roundup of a bunch of drug busts that have occurred, over the past several weeks, and one of the
Sure.
biggest ones was at Vancouver International Airport. That involved the shipment of auto parts. Interestingly, the auto parts were going from Canada to Australia, and investigators found about $69 million worth of drugs in this shipment of auto parts headed to Australia. It was about 700 pounds of methamphetamine or cocaine, excuse me, 700 pounds of cocaine and 500 pounds of methamphetamine. So it was a really interesting case out of the Vancouver International Airport.
Now, when it comes to, these smuggling efforts, is there like a common theme that you're seeing that, all right, like, hey, folks are doing the same things over and over? Or because I mean these aren't just little, I mean, robberies. I mean, these are quote unquote heist happening. Can you kind of explain to our viewers, like, are there some commonalities amongst things, or what are you seeing based off of your investigating and reporting?
Well, what you see, usually it involves shipments of auto parts. Um, Drug smugglers love shipments of goods where they can hide and stash drugs. So I've been told by investigators, furniture drug smugglers love furniture shipments because there's all kinds of places you can try to stash drugs within furnitures. But you see it a lot all the time in shipments of fresh fruits, shipments of almost anything. In this case, like I said, it was a shipment of auto parts. And some of the other cases that I wrote about yesterday, it was a shipment of plastic vases that drug dealers had stashed, drugs inside these vases. So it's any kind of shipment where you can either hide drugs or try to conceal their scent, which is what happens a lot when you use shipments of fruits and vegetables. They try to mask the scent of these drugs with these when they come across, so the canines can't smell them.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And I want to ask because we're about to have a professional driver on to speak about his career and the lovely accomplishments he's done. But I want to speak about legitimate carriers, legitimate drivers. When it comes to them, could an innocent driver or a company get blamed for something that they had no idea? I mean, how does that work? Just out of curiosity for my own knowledge, like I'm sure that's happened in the past, but what kind of goes into that, Noy?
I think in a lot of cases, I wouldn't want to guess the percentage, but I know in a lot of cases the drivers don't even know. They know what they're hauling, but the shipment is loaded for them, especially the ones coming from Mexico. Those transfer drivers or cross-border drivers. Sometimes they don't even touch the load themselves. They know what it is, but they pick up that trailer. They're bringing it across the border, and yes, in a lot of cases, they have no idea that the drugs are in the car or in the truck. And sometimes even with the companies, they don't even know themselves. They're not part of the smuggling operation. It's just a broker or a company that trying to get this shipment to its end destination. And it does happen a lot where smugglers will use these legitimate loads to try to get their illegal drugs across the border. And what happens in a lot of cases is the drivers aren't arrested, especially if the truck is still sealed. Law enforcement will uh, let the drivers, go back to Mexico, or they don't have evidence tying them to that particular case, and they're eventually cleared. And sometimes they are arrested, though. In one of the cases yesterday, apparently the driver knew what he was doing. He knew he was hauling illegal drugs in his shipments, and he was eventually charged and arrested for his part in that shipment.
Given how creative these concealments of drugs, look and how it's happened, um, how reliable are inspections today, right? I mean, and a follow-up to that is also, are there any gaps or vulnerabilities that you see that you're just like, hey, like this needs to kind of be zipped up because I'm just not understanding why this continues to happen.
Well, as anybody who writes about cross-border trucks knows, not 100% of the trucks are inspected. It's just, I think, as law enforcement will say, it's physically impossible to stop, every truck, go inside, look at the shipment, to determine, everything is all right. So from what I've heard, it's anywhere, or it's a certain percentage, and I don't want to say off the top of my head, but a certain percentage of trucks are checked coming across the border through technologies such as imaging, through physical inspections, through, like I said, canine, and but even with that percentage, I think sometimes I've heard it's as high as 30, 40%, maybe 50% of trucks, and I could be wrong. So if law enforcement's out there, please correct me. But drugs still are able to get across just because of the sheer amount of illegal drugs that these gangs, cartels, criminal organizations, there's just so much coming across that sometimes what we're seeing or what we're catching, law enforcement is catching at the border is just a small percentage of what's actually coming across the borders.
Now, are there particular, and again, I'm putting you in the hot seat, and I appreciate you being great about this one, man, because it's an industry inside of an industry, right? Like I think this is truly like something that is not necessarily talked about. And then also, it wasn't like this 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. I mean, I think since COVID, there has been such an uptick in this type of behavior in the space. And I like to bring attention to it. And quite frankly, selfishly, I'm fascinated by it. So I think that the question I wanted to ask are there any regions, ports, or border crossings that seem to be repeated targets by these groups? Are there any hot spots? Obviously, we know in terms of cargo theft, California is huge, Texas is huge, but specifically from your side, like what are you seeing as well?
Um, Laredo's got to be one of the hottest spots just because it's the biggest land port in the U.S. in terms of truck crossing. So just by the sheer volume of trucks that cross back and forth between the United States and Mexico in Laredo. I think I've heard numbers from anywhere from 10,000 to maybe 15,000 trucks a day cross the border in Laredo, Texas. So just by that sheer volume, Laredo is a hot spot, so to speak, for drug smuggling. But any border crossing along, the U.S.-Mexico border and even Canadian borders, there's some hotspots. The Detroit Ambassador Bridge, you see sometimes drug busts. Usually, it's drugs from the United States going into Canada. In a lot of cases, where we see the drugs getting stopped at the border. The blue water crossing bridge connecting the U.S. and Canada. I think that's one is in Montana. That's another one that you see a lot of drug activity. So, but Laredo is obviously the big one, just by the sheer number of trucks that go back and forth every day.
Definitely. Thank you so much for breaking that down. Now, walk me through, the next 12 to 24 months, because it seems like more and more and more of this is going to continue. From a regulation standpoint, I know you obviously aren't, making policies. I mean, you're a writer and you have conversations, but what do you think is imminent and on the horizon in terms of getting this turned around? Because it seems to be at this point almost an epidemic happening.
Well, one of the interesting things, I've been at FreightWaves almost about 6.5 years now. And when I started back in 2019, 2020, 21, what I can say is there were a lot of drug busts, drug border busts even back then. One of the biggest difference I've noticed between, when I started and now is that back then the drug shipments that were getting caught were much, much larger. You were seeing like 50 million, 100 million, on stuff like that. These really, really big loads of drugs being concealed, within legitimate shipments. Now what I'm seeing is smaller ones. 69 million isn't small. Obviously the one that was caught at the Vancouver International Airport, but I'm not seeing those, 25, 30, 40, 50 million loads of illegal drugs being caught at the border. So, I think enforcement at the border has obviously gotten more strict, especially with all of the things going on with, the immigration crackdown, non-domiciled CDL drivers. That might be having an effect. There's a sort of, I guess, renewed pressure from the Trump administration on Mexico to do more to police its borders on their side. So it seems to be slow. I wouldn't want to say slowing down drug dealers, but maybe it's having an effect on how they bring drugs into the country.
Definitely. Now, last thing on this before we transition into your piece about layoffs. When it comes to, I would just say, the typical person in the industry, whether they're a broker, whether they're a truck driver, they're a shipper. I mean, what are some things that you would advise just the typical hardworking person when it comes to this? Because you like it or not, we're going to be impacted by this, right? I mean, I think it's going to always be kind of like a ripple effect. What would advice be for the typical person in the space to kind of be more, fundamentally sound about what's happening currently when it comes to this?
Well, security experts have told me, some of the tips they give to their clients is know everybody that's part of your supply chain. Know the shipper, all the brokers, the trucking companies, the carriers, even every stop, if possible. Wherever that truck's going or wherever that shipment's going, know every piece of the supply chain, every person that touches that load. Just try to stay on top of every part of that shipment. And even then, that's not foolproof, but just by having that kind of information and that kind of visibility into, that particular shipment, that will go a long way in, preventing something like this happening, in your supply chain, where you get tied up in a legal process because there was drugs found in your shipment. And then, that shipment's going to be you're going to lose that shipment, and you might have legal problems. So just know everything you can about the supply chain, every hand touching that shipment, every place it stops, everything you can get out of the visibility of that supply chain.
Thank you, Noi. Let's pivot to layoffs because saw this article today that you just published. Wow, that's all I have to say. I mean, 12,000 layoffs across automotive, food, logistics, manufacturing. It's kind of been pulled all when it comes to this data. What's the leading driver of this based off of the things you've compiled and what you've seen in the conversations you've had?
Um, there was no one silver bullet in terms of cause for the layoffs, but the article I wrote, it mentioned some of these really big companies that everybody's heard of, such as General Motors, Tyson Foods, Kroger. In the case of Tyson Foods, they're closing a food processing plant in Lexington, Nebraska, and they cited cattle shortages. The supply chain of getting cattle to process has slowed down for various factors around the world. So that was the reason for that plant's closure. Tyson was also laying off employees from a cattle production or food production plant in, I believe it was somewhere in Texas. I forgot which city, but they were laying off 1,700 employees from a facility in Texas, and that was also because of cattle shortages. In the case of Kroger, they were closing fulfillment centers in 3 different states and laying off, I think it was 1,000 employees, and they cited changing consumer habits, and probably they said they're putting more focus on their uh, e-commerce sales, and also in General Motors cited just slowing demand in the electric vehicle market, and they were cutting about 1,100 employees in Detroit, and the layoffs from General Motors had ripple effects across their suppliers, who were also laying off more employees in the Michigan area. So it was all these different little factors just sort of going across the supply chain that affects companies trucking companies, logistics companies, manufacturers.
It's a perfect segue to my next question because I was listening and the locations you were mentioning. I mean, I heard Nebraska, I heard Michigan quite a bit. Are there any specific regions that are, typically, I don't want to say more targeted, but are you seeing like a commonality or, more of a focus on certain areas, or is this more so just been across the board?
It's a little bit across the board, but you're seeing a lot. Florida got hit hard these past few weeks in layoffs. Kroger, one of their fulfillment centers that I mentioned, it was in Florida. Uh, a company called Fanatics. If there's any sports fans out there, they've heard of Fanatics. They make apparel for, I think it's basketball and football. They're closing a big distribution center in Florida, something like I think it's 300 to 400 employees or more. Um, the Midwest got hit hard. Michigan, like I said, Nebraska. You saw a bunch of layoffs in Illinois as well. So it's spread out, but I would say the Southeast and Midwest got hit hard these past few weeks.
Well, last thing before I get you out of here, first off, thank you because I'll put you in the hot seat, and you have delivered today on this interview. Are there anything that we can look forward to in the next 6 to 12 months? I mean, you see it, you write about it, but we talk a lot of things bad. But is there anything that we need to be looking to in terms of, all right, this is potentially going to be good when it comes to perhaps reclaiming some of these jobs or creating other opportunities for Americans to get back to work?
You know, I write about layoffs quite a bit, and it's a tough part of my job because uh, I think of the person that is being laid off or the people that are being laid off, and what I can say in terms of maybe some good news is I go to conferences a lot and I talk to workers, regular employees, people who work in warehouses, truck drivers, and the resiliency of just regular worker, and I consider myself a pretty regular worker, is something that always gives me hope. I don't think people have lost hope. In terms of what we're doing, what we're trying to do with the economy. Hopefully, things will get better. But the resiliency of just the average person, the American worker, is something that always gives me hope looking forward.
Noi Mahoney again, Freight Insider here at FreightWaves. Noi, you're doing fantastic work. Thank you so much for all you do. Happy Thanksgiving as well to you and your family, and hopefully nobody's doing the horns down from Texas A&M this weekend, brother.
It's all good. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks again, Noi. Again, Noi Mahoney joining the show. That was some awesome stuff. And speaking of awesome, guys, this is going to be the best story I think I've had since I've been on With the Truck. I'm excited about it. Trying not to talk too much and let him get in here. But joining me now is somebody who, quite frankly, embodies everything that makes the industry great. He is a Marine Corps veteran, 33-year professional driver, role model in the community, in the trucking space. And now officially, he is a 2025 Road Warrior champion. You guys remember my conversation that I had earlier when it came to Pilot Flying J. And this guy ended up getting surprised with a custom built Kenworth and $50,000 in cash. So, Stacy, I want you to make sure you Venmo me at the end of this conversation. I'm kidding, man. Stacy Batiste, come on in. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing great, man.
It's
Can y'all
awesome,
hear
man.
me?
Thank you so much. I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Okay, fine. Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. 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 Let's just start with the moment. All right. So everybody's talking about the Diesel brothers. They pull up. Pilot crew's there. Your family's there. Cameras rolling. Everybody's just like, man, this is not normal. Walk me through that feeling, man.
It was shocking. That's all I could say. I was speechless. I didn't know, I guess I had to kind of accept it, or it was just something that never happened. When I seen Diesel Dave come out there and he said, "Hey, I'm doing the interview." I'm like, I was kind of shocked at that point also, because I was a fan of theirs. Well, I am a fan of theirs, and I've watched the show countless times. And they were like, "Hey, let's go outside where we could be in front of the pilot." I was like, "Okay, cool." Get the pilot in the background, everything. I think maybe they were doing like maybe 10 people interviews, this, that, and that, and we were just out there talking, general conversation. And in the corner of my eye, I seen the truck turn. He's like, "Man, I gotta tell you, you're the winner." And I was like, "Of what?" You know, he said, "You won the truck. You're the 2025, Road Warrior." And it was like everybody came out and it was like, "Okay, let's process this." And it was a big shocker. I never won anything on this stage, this statue. But they were all asking me questions, and it was like I didn't know whether to go left, right, middle. But I was very, very happy. I mean, it's a shocker. And I guess it goes to the time I put in and everything like that. A lot of people appreciated it. So I was good to go after that.
That's amazing, Stacy. Now, let me ask, man, 33 years doing what you're doing, trucking, 5 million miles, accident free. Brother, how have you been able to do this long and stay as safe as you have been, man? This is nuts.
Well, actually, it's a little bit longer now. It's about 34, 35 years now. To be honest with you.
Oh,
But
my
I'm
God.
just, I just, I guess with the military training, I kind of I'm alert. I pay attention to everything. It's not just me driving. You have to watch everybody else out there. And sometimes you can kind of tell, like, okay, hey, he's gonna do this, hey, he's gonna do that. Or even in four-wheelers, it's like, hey, they're gonna cut in front of you, first opportunity. So I kind of back off, take my time. I'm never in a rush. I try not to be. You know, I'm always early, on my deliveries. Like I try to be, early unless something major happens to the vehicle, truck. But it's just, I don't know. I hadn't realized how much I put in until, like I said, my best friend, when he put it on paper, I was like, wow, I couldn't believe I'd done that. But I guess it's a great thing, you know. So, but I just hadn't realized that much time had passed by. To be honest with you.
No, most definitely. And you mentioned your background. First off, I want to say thank you for your service. My father's also, he was in the Army, rather. So I just want to say thank you
Okay,
for all you did for our country.
I
And talk
appreciate
to
it.
me a
Thank
little
you.
bit, of course. Talk to me a little bit about your time in the Marines and how that helped shape your career right now and how you've been able to execute just at such a high level for all this time.
Well, I learned a lot there. I guess, you know, like they said, you know, from a boy to a man, you know, I was in high school and, you know, kind of mischievous, you know, in certain areas, doing some things I shouldn't be. But it was kind of like I felt something was missing in my life, you know, that edge, I guess, you know, the crossover from, you know, being you know, a boy to a young man. And when I got in the military, I found what I was looking for, that discipline cycle, you know, and that's what I needed. You know, not everybody needs it, but I needed it at that time for me, you know, and the stuff I got out of there, you know, punctuality, you know, just discipline, you know, honor, you know, like a man's word is, you know, that's his honor, you know. And so if I tell you I'm gonna do something, whether I lose money or whatever the situation be on the load, I give you my word that I'll be there, and that's what I'm gonna do. You know, so I learned a lot from that, and I just transitioned into my life. Some people see it differently, you know, but you know, that's just the way I live my life.
And I think you're living your life just fine because that's what a man's supposed to do. And I love that. And I'm sure the people around you love it. And I want to transition to that. Your family. All right. So this wasn't, you didn't reach out to get this award. What was really cool, your family, based off of the information I know, I could be wrong, but your family was somebody, they were the folks that nominated you. What did this mean to know that your family held you in this high regard, and basically with the reason that this happened for you, man?
Well, we're a close knit family. I have two sisters, and I have a friend of mine for about the past, I want to say 47 years, you know. He doesn't have it. He has a sister also, but, you know, we're the only two boys. So we're kind of like brothers. And, you know, we talk every day, sometimes two, three times a day. It just depends on what's going on.
And I think we
Um,
may have.
he took off. What's that? Go ahead.
No, no, no. I can hear you now. I thought we lost you for a second. I was about to be sad, but you're back.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But you know, he nominated me. He asked me some information, and I gave it to him. You know, I was just with you know trying to give it to him. You know, just curiosity and stuff like that. And he said they called him and they told him that you know they stayed in contact with him, and they called me for some information. I gave it to him, and it was just the guy I'm hugging there in the picture. That's him. That's like my brother from another mother, you know. And my sisters and I, we were close in that we take vacations together. We try to, you know, do everything we can together, you know. And like I said, it was just a shocker, man. I mean, I have no other words, you know, to put in there, but you know, it was, I guess, a great pleasure to me knowing that people put me in that status, you know, even the pilot, you know, the Diesel brothers, you know, everybody in the organization, you know, I just want to tell them thank you. And I tell them every chance I get, thank you. I appreciate everything they've done, you know, and it was just, you know, I guess, you know, like they say, you didn't have to pick me, but you did. And that was great, you know, and I mean, like I said, you know, I hope it inspires other truck drivers, you know, even though we're going through a tough time, you know, just like y'all were talking about the layoffs and everything like that, you know, that, you know, as long as you keep your CDL, your driving status as clean as possible, you may not get what you're looking for here, but you have opportunities to go somewhere else and be fruitful, you know, and maybe that's what you need, you know. So I just, you know, I look at it that way and I just try to do, you know, the same thing, you know, just be as safe as I can. Not just look out for myself, but other people in general. And hopefully we could, you know, make it a lot easier.
No, definitely. You will make it a lot easier. And you do look out for other people because there's a common theme that Pilot continued to mention, and is that you did a lot and you do a lot in your community. Walk me through, why do you have such this hold in your heart when it comes to your community? And correct me, I always say it wrong. It's not Lafayette, it's Lafayette, correct?
Yes, it's
Louisiana.
Lafayette. Yes, is how can I put it? I don't know. I just enjoy helping people. I know a lot of things about trucks, big trucks, mechanics wise, things of that nature. And when I got started, a lot of people helped me. And like one thing that sticks with me is like when they say pass it forward. So I help other people not to get paid, and like you said, I'm a firm believer of God, and your blessings come, but I don't do it, to say, oh, I'm gonna get money for this, or hey, I'm gonna get, this or that. I do it because I like doing it, I love it, and if I could help someone, I will, and it's just I don't know, it's just part of me. I just, if I can help you, I will, but I'll never hurt you, and that's my thing.
That's a beautiful statement. Now let's talk about the prize, and I want to get into some other things too. But you're walking up a custom built Kenworth just for you. What's the first thing that stood out about this truck? And then you get in the inside. I mean, what are you thinking, man?
The color, that's my color red. As you can see in the picture, I had a red shirt on. I have a red truck now, so it just popped. And, I just the detailing, like the exhaust. I looked at the mufflers, the stacks, the lights, it's like wow, you know, just that it's mine, and I have to get used to that, when I first started, I started with a big truck and I went to smaller trucks, just for the situation I was in, and trucks that made it work. But this one, I think this will hopefully be my last truck, just to keep it up, keep it moving. I love the color scheme on it. I follow the Diesel Brothers, so I was trying to watch them while they redesigned the truck, but they kept it to themselves until the end because I think they had mentioned my name a couple of times, so they didn't want to give it away. Spoil the surprise. But I was watching them, like watching them, and I was telling my buddy Kenneth, I was like, "Hey, man, they not putting anything out there like they normally do. Normally they'll kind of put it out there, on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere." What they're doing, this, that, and that. But I said this one is kind of quiet, so it was just a shocker. Like I said, I didn't know what to say. It's like they were telling me about the money, but I was looking at the truck. I'm worried about the truck. I'm not worried about the money.
I was gonna ask about that too. Is all right. So you got the truck, but then I mean, it's 50K in cash. Like that's nuts. But no, it definitely sounds that the truck has your heart more than the money. That shows where your heart's at. Which leads me to my next question. Is that all right? Like everybody has a story about how they got into trucking. You obviously have that Marine background, and you have a family and everything. But what's kept you here? What's kept you doing all this, man?
I've I tell everybody that when I was small as a child, everybody played with cars, Hot Wheels, things of that nature. I had some, but I always wanted trucks. I don't know why. Whether it's a 18-wheeler model, dump truck, I always wanted a truck. And my mom used to fuss at me. I always wanted trucks. And she was like, when I got into it, it was kind of just a whim. I had an opportunity. This guy was getting out to buy his truck. And, I started from the bottom. I was a little small cab over. And he was like, hey, man, you could do this, that, and that. And so, I just took a leap of faith and I jumped out there with that truck and I never turned back.
I love that. There were thousands of truck drivers nominated for this, man. And a lot of them listen to this show. What's your message to them, both the veterans in the game like yourself, and then also that rookie driver that's looking to make the mark like you once, definitely now have done, but back in the day? What's your message to them?
keep going. Don't give up. I know sometimes we have tough days, we have hard days, we have impossible days, but for me, I'm doing what I love, so I don't know. It's not like a job, you know. Um, it's more like I don't know, like a hobby, you know. Some days I have rough days, like man, I can't wait till I get home, you know, things of that nature. But I love what I do, and I can't see myself doing anything else, you know. And they always say, you get out what you put in. You know, if you put in 100%, 9 times out of 10, you'll get that. You're gonna have some bad days. All you have to do for me is just prepare for it. Live your life, not above your means. And I just keep it simple, and it'll turn out. It'll work out. 9 times out of 10, it'll work out for you. A lot of people, they get in, and somebody, they don't have the full, I guess, all the information they need to be successful. And so they panic and get out. But, sometimes you have to stay the course. And, if that's what you love doing, then you do that. But, some guys, I'm going to get in, I'm going to make all this money and get out, I don't think it's a quick fix like that. I think it's, you have to put your time in. And like I said, I've been doing it for a while, so a lot of things come easier to me than it does, the younger drivers. But it's just don't give up. Keep going.
Don't give up. Keep going. I love that. Stacy, what's next for the Road Warrior champion? What's your plans in the immediate time? I know Thanksgiving, so give me the Thanksgiving menu, but then also what's the next, let's say, year or two look like for you, man?
Uh, I got a saying, they be laughing at me. I'm gonna ride till I die, or they take me out the truck, man. I'll be honest with you on that part. Maybe, me staying home, I could do about 2 or 3 days at home after that. I guess, I got diesel in my veins, so I gotta smell it somewheres, So I'm gonna ride, as long as they let me. As far as Thanksgiving, it's gonna be with the family. I'm trying to eat as much as I can, everything, from turkey to ham, dressing, all kinds, especially the sweets, and just kick back and enjoy the time with the family.
I love it, man. I'm a ride till I die. I got diesel in my veins. Stacy, this is one of the best stories I've ever had on What the Truck, brother. And I really appreciate you coming on
Thank you.
and sharing it with me. Yeah, no,
Uh,
this is great, man.
uh,
This is great.
yeah, like I said, I don't know it, I just enjoy what I do, like I said, so until they tell me, hey, I can't drive, or, I get too old or whatever, I'm gonna keep doing it. And like I said, hopefully I'm here for the long haul.
Yeah, well, definitely. If you're ever in Chattanooga, Tennessee, you make sure you come by and see me. We'll definitely get we got some sweets out here too, so I'll make sure I'll get you right. How's that sound?
I'll take it. I'll take it. I promise you, I will.
Stacy, thank you again, man. I really appreciate it. And from my family to yours, happy Thanksgiving, man.
Same to you guys, yo. Be safe out there. I heard you were in Florida, right?
I'm in Florida right now. I'll be back home to Tennessee real
Okay.
soon. You see behind me, I got the palm trees behind me. So
Well, that's great. I mean, nice background, nice setting, you enjoy as well. Like I said, don't eat too much to where, you can't make it back.
I'm gonna take you up on that, man. My mom, it's her fault, man. So I'll definitely take you up on that.
Mm. Well, you have a great one. And thank y'all for letting me, share my story. Like I said, it's been a great blessing. And like I said, for everybody out there, even the guys that didn't win or whatever, just keep trying, man. Keep going, keep moving, keep the wheels turning. You know, like I said, it's gonna work out one way or the other.
It absolutely will. Stacy, thank you so much. You're welcome back anytime.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. You have a great one, okay?
You as well. Thank you so much. All right, y'all. That's the end of our show. Noi Mahoney and Stacy Baptiste, thank you guys so much. Looking at the road ahead, we have awesome guests coming up. It's a three-part series. Garrett Wolf, Daniel Lucas, and Danielle Villegas. All right, again, Garrett Wolf with Triumph, Daniel Lucas He is going to be with UFS. And Danielle Villegas with PCS, our sponsor of the month. You do not want to miss out on this. Make sure you guys are locked in with me. And again, from my family, from the team, from everybody, I appreciate it. This is another episode of What the Truck. I'm Malcolm Harris. Happy Thanksgiving. Peace.